Okay, so essentially, this is entry level object making. This is as simple as it gets. There are basically four resources that you edit when you do basic object making. There's the GMDC, the TXTR, the GUID, and the CTSS. And I guess we'll look at those now. Oh, before we get started, does everyone have some version of SimPE and the DDS utilities? I think Rachel covered that in the recoloring workshop, but it's something that you need if you're going to work with textures. So, if you didn't know, no, I didn't want to go there. We go to the tool shed. We go to the NVIDIA page. And we download the DDS utilities. And then we go to SimPE. We go Extra, Preferences, that executable. Then Open, and you're all done. Okay, so now that we've got that set up, we'll go to Object Workshop. Mine is set up a little bit differently from Rachel's. I prefer to have the Object Workshop on the bottom pane here. So we're going to click Start, and you can follow along if you like. We'll let it load all of the file tables. Okay, and then just decorative. And what's a good template to use? We'll go down to this one that says the measure of a sim. Click next. Make sure that the drop-down is set in clone and just leave all of the default settings as they are. We don't need to pull any other colors. We don't need to pull wall masks. Well, I mean, in this case, it doesn't matter whether this is checked or not because we're not making a window or door. So we just go next. And here,
If I can't find that one, can I do the
Yeah, I
big
can't
tiger
find.
sculpture?
yeah, just anything simple that only has one subset.
Okay, I think so.
It should be.
I found it.
It should be at the top of the list and in quotes.
In the top of decorative?
Decorative sculpture.
Oh, I found it. Okay.
I'm just going to type something here to get it cloned because I want to show you how to go back and edit this. Okay, so here in the scene graph renamer, we just want to give it, it's not always necessary, but just to show you the process, we're going to give it a unique name.
Okay.
Click on the update link, click OK, and then I'm going to the project folder that I set up on my desktop. It's called Basic Object Workshop. So Just give it something like that. And we have cloned an object. So, and the 4 resources, it really doesn't matter in which order you edit them, but I'm just going to follow the pattern that I normally do. So, we select the GMDC in the resource tree, and then again from the resource list. And then in the plugin view, you click the import button. Let's go ahead and select the object. Replace sculpture, and then click OK. And I don't really use the ground shadow for anything, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Then we commit. Next,
Right.
TXTR.
What? On the GMDC, when you imported, what did you import exactly?
The object file. From if you go to...
Oh, from your thread, right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, import and replace.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not a big fan of shadows, so I don't want to take the time to make an accurate shadow for the sculpture, so I'm just going to get rid of it. So now we have the actual sculpture texture. So here we right click, build DXT, and we select none from the drop down, and we don't really need the alphas, and we want to keep it fairly small, so we just leave the DXT1 format. Then over here we click on the open link, and we're going to grab that JPEG that I uploaded.
Ah, okay.
Then we just click build, commit. Okay, so now if we go back up to the GMDC and we preview, that's a little bit on the high side, but it doesn't really matter. And goodness, that is specular. That is super shiny. I don't like that.
Question, where did you get the object for the grill? Like, how do you make, is that through Blender or Milkshape? Like,
no, I was messing around. I went to XNA Lara, well, DeviantArt. They have a lot of XNA Lara models, and just downloaded it and converted it for the purpose of the tutorial. Like, it wasn't even a serious endeavor. Okay, here's a funny looking model that we can play with today, so I'm just going to set that up. That is insanely specular. Why would you even need that for a wood material?
so the specs came from the wooden sculpture?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it should be, and I don't understand that either, so I'm just going to, it doesn't need to be beige, so we're just going to make it gray. But this isn't necessary to make the object, so we'll focus on the GMDC and the TXTR. I just want to, that's like 10 times the specularity that it needs. Okay, that's a lot better.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely more matte.
Yeah, they have some of the Maxis objects have weird settings. Okay, so we replace the mesh in the GMDC and then replace the texture. in the txtr. So now, let's go over here. This is the objd. This, it does three things. It tells you what category an object is in. It tells you the price of an object. And if you want to edit the price, go over here, make sure that this is set in decimal, and we're just going to go 14 simoleons. Okay? Then, let's jump back into the tool shed. I left the links in the thread as well, the text thread for the workshop. So then we go to random. Is this the one? Yeah, this will work. No, we don't need 32. We just need 8. Okay. So we click on the link. We generate a random number. Copy that number. Then jump back over here. And this value here, the GID, would just overwrite. You want to leave the 0x, but then just overwrite the other 8 characters. And then we commit that. The GID, or globally unique identity, it makes the object unique. If we did not update the GID, it would just overwrite the Maxis object. But if you're creating a unique standalone object, you need to update this. So then we just commit, save, and then we jump up to the CTSS. So here you can see I just entered some random text because I wanted to show you how to edit it. This is the first line. This is the title of the object in the catalog. So see, if we had just kept the Maxis description, it would say the measure of a sim right now. And then down here we can put a description, and this can be a long string of text if you want.
A lovely gorilla.
Then we edit the description, commit, and save. And that should be it. So, yeah, what's happening? We jump up to our project folder. And that's on my other screen, so I'll show you what I'm doing here. Grab that. I think we can close SimPE at this time. And I'm not going to make the same mistake that I did last time. So we go EA Games.
Put it in your folder.
Yeah, put it in the wrong folder. Downloads and story stuff. This is, I mean, I don't know why I named it that originally, but it's a test folder. This is where I keep
making objects for story.
Yeah. It's just a folder where I keep the objects that I'm testing. So then if there's an issue, if the game crashes while it's loading or something, I know that's the first folder to remove. So then we just launch the game. And it might take a little while this time because I didn't trim down the downloads. I didn't pull out all of the unnecessary files. But while the game is loading, were there any questions?
I guess so. Can you put in your thread those type of mesh files you found on DeviantArt, like the extensions?
Okay. Yeah, but
Cause and
that's a whole different thing. I mean, you would have to install the what do you call it? The XPS editor for XNA Lara, and then there's a little about posing, and you would need to export the model as an OBJ and then re-import it into Blender or Milkshape and scale it to size. I mean, it might be the subject of another workshop, actually.
I'd be interested in that cause like this is for basically cloning existing objects and making new objects from the clones, correct?
Yeah, this is entry level objects. This is like
Okay.
objects 101. It's I mean it's interesting. Like the XNA Lara program, it's for animating. So, do you
Hmm.
remember the project I did a few months back? All the pretty horses, and they're
Hmm.
rearing and they're bucking and they're galloping and they're prancing
Hmm.
around. That was all done essentially from the same model. You can reposition the model. I mean, it's jointed, it's animated, so you can do a lot of different things with it, and then just export it as an OBJ and scale it and mess around with it in Milkshape or Blender, and
Hmm.
then import it to SimPE.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of options. I mean, it's just that each different file format requires all different software. Like,
Mm.
for example, all of the Skyrim and Fallout models, you would need to have NifScope installed.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh yeah,
But
it's. I mean, there are options for future workshops. I'm not saying no, they're not my highest priority right now, but maybe someday in the middle to far-flung future,
hmm.
they could happen. Do I have any questions on text, Rachel?
On what?
On text.
On
On the text for.
oh, um, Jeannie said, I think a lot of people thought today's workshop was going to be about creating an object from scratch, maybe, like in Milkshape or Blender. Oh, and that's what you were talking about, like a future workshop on that
Yeah.
problem.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, creating an object meshing from scratch in Milkshape or Blender, that's a whole different topic, and it's not that basic because then you have to. I mean, you can export the raw OBJ, but then you need to do a UV map, and that's a different skill set. Well, let's go with this one.
Really said she was having trouble with the GUID since it changed. Huh.
Okay, well let's we'll run a test and then I'll see if I can look at it.
Yeah, I think it's important to learn, these
Yeah,
basics, definitely.
yeah, the fundamentals, and then you build on
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, that's what Grin's saying.
Well, if the damn thing will ever load.
Thinking real hard.
Yeah.
Mine does that too.
The neighborhood isn't bad, but just depending on how much content I have, the game takes a little while, and then the lot takes a little while.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be more than a couple of minutes. So if it has to think, then it loads up the lot almost immediately. But if the pop-up window loads immediately, then it takes longer in the loading screen.
Hmm. Then instead, you could do basic stuff with a simple box shape. But
Okay,
still,
yeah, this
that's
was
what, exporting the OBJ stuff.
this
Um,
was just the matte wall that I picked out to for
mhm.
the clothes project I did last week. Okay, so it should be deco, sculpture, and around 14. There it is. And that's
So I
it?
have a question with this grill in particular. When the texture, did that come with the mesh that you got? Is that where, and then
Yeah.
or and
Yeah,
then you like separated it?
XNA LoRa models, they usually come with a DDS file and the XPS model. And then you would just export. You would open the object in XPS viewer and export as an OBJ, and then provided that you have the DDS plugins in Photoshop, you would that should be placeable on a table. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay. For some
That's,
reason, I thought it was like a lot bigger. Like I thought it was like a real
no,
big
I
gorilla.
scaled it. I scaled it so that it's about on the damn it,
Yeah,
about on
like
the
that little
level
wooden
of
sculpture.
the sculpture, about the same size.
Yeah.
So there it is. Actually, that's a pretty decent looking model. And that's it, start to finish object making.